What is up, sons? It's Blind Run once again with Son of a Tech, and I have the Sapphire RX470 4GB along with the GTX 1060 3GB, and we're going to see how it performs in the latest title from Activision, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Alrighty, so the test bench is going to be an i7-3770K overclocked to 4.4 GHz, mated to an Asus P8Z77 motherboard with 16 GB of DDR3, and that is clocked at 1600 MHz. The power supply is going to be a Corsair RX470, and it will be running on a PNY solid state drive, and it's a 500 GB drive. The benchmark is going to be run on the very first mission in the game, so you shouldn't see any spoilers here. Well, if you watch the cutscene, yeah, but hopefully you're already been playing. But anyways, I won't be playing the cutscene here. You'll be loading in and you will be in a plane like every other kind of Call of Duty scene. These move very, very fast, so it's very hard to find a good spot to benchmark, and this seemed to be the most consistent and the easiest to access. So once you start, you'll actually have an option to press space, which is nice because you can hit space and the benchmarking key at the same time, starting the benchmark every time right there. I like that. Once you do that, you will jump out of the plane and you will be able to control your movement with A or D back and forth, trying to stay within the middle, kind of like a mini game. And then you will land and press space, and you will let your two teammates walk ahead of you. As they're walking, you'll follow them, and then once they stop at a crater or cliff, you will pass them and hop into the cliff. At the bottom of the trench or cliff or whatever it is, there will be an enemy, and you will land on him and then press V to stab him in the neck. The benchmark should end here and should be about 60 seconds long. So let's talk settings. All the benchmarks will be in 1080p, 1440p, and 4K, with highest available settings including SMAAT2X, or 2 times, and motion blur will be off. Now the only settings that aren't maxed all the way is going to be tessellation, which is set to near. Now on top of that, keep in mind that I have my field of view set to 95. Hopping into the 1080p numbers, we see the RX470 with a minimum of 77 FPS, an average of 118.1, and a max of 127, while the GTX 1060 3GB had a minimum of 85 FPS, an average of 120.3, with a max of 126. Obviously here the numbers are pretty close, but the win goes to the GTX 1060 3GB. The gap stays about the same at 1440p, where the RX470 had a minimum of 48 with an average of 82.2 and a max of 126. While on the GTX 1060 3GB, it had a minimum of 55 with an average of 88.5 and a max of 126. Finally, we move on to the big daddy that honestly we probably already know. These cards won't run at a playable frame rate, but for shits and giggles, the RX470 had a minimum of 23 FPS with an average of 42 and a max of 63. While on the GTX 1060 3GB, the minimum was 27 with an actual lower average than the RX470 of 41.4 and a lower max of 60 FPS. This might be due to the extra VRAM on the RX470. So in conclusion, obviously these cards, especially in this game, aren't really matched eye to eye. I do realize that the RX 484GB is technically the competition for the GTX 1060 3GB, but I don't currently have a 4GB model of the RX 480. But what do we see here? We do see that at 1080p, the RX 470 performs pretty close to the GTX 1060 3GB, and seeing that you don't even get to a smooth 60 FPS on the GTX 1060 3GB at 1440p, I would be inclined to say that both of these cards are 1080p cards, and in that case I would spend a little bit less money and go for the RX 470, as you're only losing a couple of FPS here and there. If you guys are interested in the Call of Duty Modern Warfare remastered benchmarks, I will leave a link right here, along with the RX480 8GB and GTX1060 6GB benchmarks for this game as well. If you are interested in individual reviews of either one of these cars, definitely go check out my playlist for graphics processing units. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and then I will see you next Tuesday.